In this video, I want to show to you how you can optimize your ad performance through the main metrics, which ones to look at. I will explain to you what the breakdowns is, because most people don't even know how much data is available in the Ads Manager about your audience and much more. And I will give you best practices. And for best practices, I will also give you my optimization SOP, which you can use for your own ads. So if you want to use this document, then simply click in the first link in the description and then copy it to your Google Drive and use it. And let's get started. I have this here in the most simple way, at least in the most simple way that I was able to come up and to use that. I manage multiple clients. I manage 6-figure ad spends per month. And therefore there is a lot to observe and to keep in mind. And for this to work, it needs to be efficient and it needs to be simple. So this is how I look at it. First of all, it's very simple, but because it's so simple, it's also oftentimes not that big of an aspect in analysis I see other people doing, is your main metric. If you optimize for sales, what is your revenue that you achieved? What is your ROAS? What are your costs per acquisition? Or if you optimize for leads, then it's the same. Basically, if you look at your overall either campaign or account performance, are you happy and are you profitable with what you're seeing? Because there are two approaches to the situation if this happens. First of all, you keep your ad spend level and you stick with it, but you try to squeeze as much out of every euro that you have as an input. Or otherwise, you are satisfied that you are profitable, but you are focused on growth, meaning you want to spend more and still remain profitable. Then it's not so much about squeezing out every euro that you have right now. You try to spend as much money as possible. Either way, you want to be profitable. So this is the first aspect. And there are differences between ABO and CBO campaigns, because a CBO campaign, what is it? Is it a campaign budget optimization? Meaning you have an input of a budget and the algorithm gives you the best possible output, at least this is the goal, based on your overall campaign budget. Meaning, and this oftentimes happens, ad sets are spending very differently. And oftentimes also the most spending ads aren't the most profitable ones. But this happens on purpose. So especially important for a CBO campaign. If you look at your overall campaign budget spent and the revenue achieved or amount of leads, cost per leads achieved, what else? Is this profitable for you? If yes, then don't overcomplicate every ad and every ad set, because the algorithm has a reason why it spends the way it does. If you have an ABO campaign, then it's more up to you how you scale budgets or change budgets. And therefore keep in mind that oftentimes the ads with the most spend generate the most first impressions. These are very important ads. They don't need to be the most profitable ones. They are important to lead to an overall profitable performance. So don't be too fixated on each ad, especially if you have bigger budgets. Then also look at your CPM values. Is it appropriate for the audience that you want to reach? I see oftentimes in videos or discussions on LinkedIn or somewhere else, people trying to get the cheapest CPMs possible. From a logical perspective, it makes sense, but you can also imagine it that way, that if you want to get to the most valuable people for you on the planet, maybe some CEO or someone, it's not cheap and easy to reach them. And many people want to reach them. Same is true for your ads. If there are many advertisers who want to reach a certain amount of audience because it has a certain value, then also the CPM value increases. It can be a good sign if you have a higher CPM value. It does not have to be, but it can be, because it's a sign that you reach a qualitative audience. If you have CPM values in a sales campaign, for example, of €3 or $3, then this traffic is very, very likely not converting because it's not a qualitative traffic. For most people, at least this is the case. If you want to decrease your CPM values, the best things you can do is to create actually ads that people want to engage with and they enjoy seeing, that it leads to a good experience on the platform. And secondly, if you have ads running for a longer time, then also the CPM will naturally decrease over time. And lastly, if you look at your main metric, your sales or your leads, also look at your conversion rates. From the ads that are working for you, which ones have a higher and a lower conversion rate? Because this is another indication about the quality of the audience and the quality this ad attracts. And what then is oftentimes visible is that ads with a lower click rate have quite high conversion rates because it's very specific, it's very niche. And if only very specific people are resonating with your message, but it's so specific, then the likelihood of those people to convert is actually quite high. So also have this in mind. Don't look at one single metric and this is like your ultimate source of truth. See the big picture in order to understand the performance and understand the traffic it generates, for then to assess if you would like to continue with this or not. And for this, I want to show you breakdowns. So if we go to the ads manager, and I have here a client, an ad account that I have for 2 months, like the time frame here, in order to give you some data. And you can see here this tab breakdown. Many even don't know that it exists or what it is. So I want to show you what it is, what you can see, and I will show to you which metrics I use and which, from my perspective, are the most valuable ones, so that you can see also for yourself how valuable it is and which data you can see. So if you click on it, you have different options. Here you have like recently used ones or popular ones, but you can find all of them under these menus here. So if you click on one, then you will see a breakdown of your campaign or the level that you have open here, for example, based on the age range. So you see here the difference in age range, and you can see nearly every metric. So you see here amount of purchases, the cost per purchase depending on the age range. You can also see differences, for example, in link click rates and so on. You see this on a campaign level. You can see this on an ad set level. And you can see this on an ad level. Also, depending on each level, ad set, or campaign, you also have different options. Let me show you which ones I use the most and why. So, demographics, age. It's very valuable to see which age range actually resonate, for example, with a certain product if you have this separated via campaign. Or, and this happens quite often, you have different video creators, like UGC creators, maybe an older woman and a younger man. And you see the age breakdown and see how differently of audiences these ads attract, especially if they are in the same ad set. Same is then true for the gender. You can also have it combined and then see it as well. What you can also use, which I highly recommend to you, is the audience segments. And I have a screenshot for this. So let me show it to you here. So here you have audience segments. You can see that you have new audience, meaning this is like cold traffic. You have engaged audiences here, and these definitions of what an engaged audience for you, you can define on your advertising settings. Here in this case, I have basically like engaged audiences, meaning like website visitors. So this is basically retargeting, what the campaign also does in combination with reaching new people. And this campaign also reaches out to existing customers. And then you can see what is the ad spend distribution, what are the results, and what are the cost per results. And then you see you have, for example, different campaigns like these two here. They have comparable ad spend, but the amount of purchases vary differently. And here you can see in this campaign, there is more purchases from existing customers than from new audiences, even though the ad spend is much more towards new audiences. And if you compare the percentages with this one here, you also see big differences. So you know that the ads in this campaign here resonates much more with existing customers than this one. With this one here, it's also very differently. For example, this one here, as engaged audiences, so retargeting, it doesn't really do anything. It only reaches out to new people or to existing customers. Whereas this campaign here and this campaign a little bit, but mostly this campaign here does retargeting. So you have better insights on what the campaigns, what the ad sets, and what the ads are actually doing. Same is true here. Once again, a screenshot from the age distribution. Here you see big differences. You can see here how the distribution is mainly between the age ranges of 25 to 54. And you can see if you compare the cost per purchase, how expensive this age range is. So what you can do then is to exclude it. So let's look at all the other breakdowns that I can recommend to you and why. Demographics, we already had this. Then the creative elements. So you can have a breakdown of your texts. And let me show this to you, because you can only see it on the ad set and the ad level. So let's have the ad set level here. You can go to breakdown and then scroll to the bottom, dynamic creative element, and then you see here text, headline, description, and call to action. So for example, for headline, you see all of them used from all the ads in this ad set here. And then you can see the breakdowns, which ones are converting, which aren't, and what are the differences. So you can see here, this one is quite outstanding with 53 euros, very high, whereas this one here with 11 euros is much more or much cheaper. And then what you can do is you can actually change it. Then you can exclude certain headlines or texts or descriptions which are more expensive, and you can use the insights of which ones are performing for you to reuse it, or for example to create new ads based on this headline. Next is the product ID. So if you're using ads with a product catalog, you can actually see which product generates the most sales and is also displayed the most. And for this, you need to go to the ad level, then go to breakdowns, delivery, and then at the bottom you find product ID. And what then actually happens for the most, is that the results are not visible here. For some shops it works, for some not, but you can at least see the differences in the distribution, and especially if you have a lot of SKUs, then you can see which ads and which products are seen in the ads. So you know at least which ones are clicked the most, which ones gets the most attention. So then you can also compare with conversion rates, with sales on the site, and so on. Next, with audience segments, I also showed this to you. What you can also see is placements. So for the simplicity of showing it to you here, let's have a look at the placements with the product catalog. So if you go once again to delivery, you can differentiate between placement and platform. Platform simply means these four here: audience network, Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger. And here you can see some differences, but you can also have all possible placements. So if we go to placements now, and then for example, order via amount spent, then you can see that most of the ad spend actually is going towards the Facebook feed. Second place is Instagram stories, and the only third is Instagram feed. And then you can also compare the costs for the different placements. So if you want to also make optimizations here, then you can exclude different placements based on the performance. But for this, you need to know which placements are actually working. What you can also see if you have image carousels is which carousel card is seen at the beginning, because if you have it as a dynamic carousel, then the order can be mixed. And for this, you go once again to the breakdowns, then to actions, and then you can see carousel card. I don't have a carousel here, but then you will see the number and the texts for each carousel card, and then you know also which ones get the most clicks, which one is displayed the most, which ones is used as title image, and so on. Lastly, I want to show you a breakdown about video, because what you can see is how many people actually watch your video with sound. So for this, you go once again to action, then scroll a bit, and then you can see video sound. And if you have this on, then you will see, usually, in this case it's not working, if the ad is displayed with sound on or off. So these are, besides the main metrics, and like the typical metrics, also like click rates, cost per click, CPM values, and so on, the breakdowns that I use a lot to understand why are ads performing and why ads are not performing. So if I have now all this data, then what I do with it? And let's come to my best practices. By the way, if you have not yet used the sheet I prepared for you, you can find the link in the description and then copy it to your own Google Drive to use it. So let's go through it step by step. You have everything here more in detail, but for the sake of this video, I want to share also here with you an even more condensed version. So if you look at your overall account or campaign performance, are you actually happy with the results? If yes, then keep going. If not, then see why not and make changes. So for this, especially like for the performance, my recommendation is to put the highest focus on the last 7 days. Why? Facebook is able to differentiate in the ad spend plus minus 75% per day. Meaning on one day you might be spending like 175 euros and on the next day only 30 euros. So the differences in day-to-day performance might be simply through this fact be very different. But throughout a whole week, especially from the time frame from Sunday to Saturday, Facebook uses the daily set budget like on a weekly basis. And then you can see and compare, if you compare like time frames of 7 days, then you have comparable budgets if you did not change them, and then have better results and better understanding about the performance. Also look at 14 days to see developments. What you can do is you can, for example, go to your ads manager, and you can do this now, what I show you on campaign level, on ad set level, and also on ad level, is if you go here to view charts, then you will see here the development based on the time frame. So you can see how did it change throughout the set time frame here. For example, the here amount of purchases. Here I can see the differentiation between cost per purchase. So I see here one day where it was for no reason much higher, and on the other days was much lower. Also the amount of ad spend, you can see how it developed and also what changes you did. So if you see here this item at the bottom, then you know that changes were made on these days. Then look at your top spending ads and find out why are those the top spending ads. Consider the frequency. Are they below a frequency of 2x or are they above it? If they are below that, then it means that it's still reaching mostly new people, which is one of the main priorities for a top spending ad, to get new people into your ecosystem. Also, consider the audience type, what I showed to you. Is it actually reaching new audiences, or is it basically a retargeting ad? And then look at the overall impact. What is the ad spend distribution between all of your ads? Do you have one or two who are very, very much outstanding and get the most or the majority of the budget? And what are with others? Why don't they get any ad spend? Find out why your top spending ads are your top spending ads and use these insights to create even better versions. Also, which other ads stand out significantly? And this can be single metrics. Maybe you have one ad with a very, very, very high or very, very low click-through rate. Then also try to understand why that is, or any other metric or metrics that in combination this ad stands out. And then with all of these information, you decide what to do now. Do you turn off ads? Do you note that you observed this ad and give it maybe a couple more days or a week before you make a final choice? Then also make budget adjustments. Add or decrease your budgets based on the performance. What you can also do right now, but this is a topic for a different video, but you can find other videos about this on YouTube, is about the value rules. For example, here, I see that the age range of 18 to 24 is for me much more expensive than any other. What I can do now is I can exclude this age range completely, but maybe there is a value for me as a business to still have people from this age range, even though it's much higher in cost. But I want to decrease my costs. So what you can now create is value rules. You can tell the algorithm that this audience for you is, for example, only half as important as this audience here. So you don't exclude it completely, but you tell the algorithm that you want to have this as majority and this only a little bit, and that the value of this is only half of it, or like you can type any percentage in there to give the algorithm clear indications how valuable this audience is for you. And then usually this metric here will also decrease because it finds people which match better your average cost per purchase or cost per lead. And the last, but probably the most important aspect is when you do optimizations, you make them first of all to improve performance, but you also make them to learn, to understand, and to improve your ads. What I can recommend to you is if you do these optimizations on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, is to do it from the perspective of what can I learn today from my ads that I can use to create even better ads. And then each week should become better because, for example, this is my routine. I can recommend it. You might have your own, but I have my big weekly checkup every time on Monday. I do all ad accounts, all campaigns, all ads, and I see and I always find new information and new insights. And I immediately turn them into briefings for new ads, for new creators, for new texts, for new video scripts. Because I want to use this data. I paid for this. Now I want to use it. So don't only do like some buttons and clicks and that's it. Learn, understand the people, because you are advertising to people, to humans. They want to be understood. So if you understand them and can communicate to them in an even better way, then they also are more likely to understand you, understand the value of the product, and therefore purchase or sign up anywhere based on what you're doing.